A banana leaf floated gently through the morning mist. Scribbled words. If anyone finds this, please remember I once existed. A high school boy picked it up, hands trembling. A nation paused to listen. A girl stepped from the shadows, into the light, with a leaf in place of her voice. Subscribe now to witness more raw, emotional, and unforgettable storytelling films from us. This story began on a morning no one remembers, except for a single leaf and a sentence no one could ever forget. Extra Volta River marshlands dawn. A gray dawn unfurls over the dense, humid heart of Ghana's Volta region. The screen is black at first, a slow crescendo of insect calls, water lapping the faint hum of unseen life. Faint text on screen, based on true events. Then fade in breath by breath, the faintest hint of light pierces through the heavy mist. Aerial shot, a vast expanse of emerald marshlands. The mighty Volta River coils like a sleeping serpent through a world untouched. The camera glides forward low with deliberate grace. Dewdrops cling to every leaf, every blade of reed. Thin veils of mist weave through mangrove roots, ancient and tangled, like forgotten stories whispered to the river. Then the sound of wings. A white egret lifts suddenly, its wings slicing through the air. Cut to a single banana leaf. Large, broad-veined, its edges tattered, drifts silently on the surface of the water. Camera moves closer, slower. The leaf rocks softly as the current carries it along a gentle curve of the river. Close up. Crude letters scrawled across the slick green surface in dark ink, shaky but deliberate. If anyone finds this, please remember I once existed. A child's hand. A desperate cry. SFX. The distant rumble of approaching thunder. Ext River marshland continuous. The leaf continues its journey, pushed this way and that by subtle currents. It brushes against reeds, grazes stones. Camera POV following the leaf almost hypnotically. A croaking bullfrog leaps across in the foreground. The voiceover begins. Soft, feminine, fragile, a whisper carried on the wind. Abiba VO. I do not know who will find this. I do not know if anyone will. But if this letter reaches your eyes, know this. I was here, I lived, and I dream still. Cut to Exterior Quam's village, riverside, same morning. A modest fishing village awakens. Huts of woven bamboo and corrugated metal cling to the edges of a wide, muddy bend in the river. Children chase chickens between crates. Women in vibrant cloths stir steaming pots. Amid this, Kwame, 17, tall, wiry school uniform, half-buttoned, trudges down the embankment with a woven basket slung over one shoulder. He carries a notebook tucked beneath his arm, well-worn and overstuffed with papers. His expression is serious, a young man with too much weighing on his mind for his years. He moves with intention, reaching the waterline, where an old battered canoe is tethered. Kwame places his basket inside and kneels to untie the rope. But a flicker of green catches his eye. Exterior River Kwame's POV. A strange object, the banana leaf, floats toward shore, almost beckoning. The current shifts. The leaf spins once slowly. The writing glistens under the weak sun. Kwame frowns. Instinctively, he wades forward, the water dark and cool around his knees. He reaches out delicate fingers, lifting the leaf from the water droplets, cascading off its slick surface. Exterior shoreline continuous. Kwame stands in the shallows, leaf in hand. He turns it carefully, eyes narrowing as he deciphers the words. His breath catches. Kwame murmuring, if anyone finds this, please remember I once existed. A shiver runs through him. His grip tightens instinctively. He glances around, no one nearby. Only the river, the reeds, the sky. Kwame scans the edges of the leaf, no name, no date. Only the stark weight of those words. He hesitates, torn, then pulls his notebook from under his arm. Delicately, he places the leaf between the pages, pressing it flat. A beat. He looks back at the river, as though expecting some phantom to rise. But the river flows on indifferent. Cut to Exeter Riverside Path. Moments later, Kwame strides back toward the village, faster now. His expression has changed, alert, heart racing. Exterior Kwam's house continuous. A humble home, faded paint, sagging roof. Inside, a battered bookshelf overflowing with borrowed books. Kwame bursts in. His mother, Hariyama. 40's tired but kind-eyed, calls after him. Mariama. Kwame, you'll be late again. But Kwame is already at his desk. He places the notebook down, gently opens it. The leaf gleams softly against the faded pages. He stares at it. Close up, his fingers trace the letters, the ink beginning to bleed. Quam vo. Who wrote this? A child, a prisoner. Someone lost, forgotten. Why a leaf? Why the river? Did they know it would reach someone? The questions swirl. He snatches a pen, scribbles in the margin. Leaf, river, unknown writer. Must find out more. Cut to exterior school courtyard day. A bell rings. Students mill about. Kwame sits apart beneath a tree, notebook open on his lap. He rereads the leaf's message over and over. A friend, Jabari, 17, plops down beside him. Jabari. You look like you've seen a ghost. Quam hesitates, then shows him the leaf. Jabari reading aloud, puzzled. If anyone finds this, please remember I once existed. Beat. Jabari softening. Man, that's heavy. Quam nods. His mind races. Kwame. I found it this morning, floating in the river. Jabari. Someone must have sent it. Maybe from upstream. You think it's real? Kwame. I don't know, but I can't stop thinking about it. A beat. Jabari watches his friend, sensing the depth of the moment. Jabari. You're gonna write about it, aren't you? Quam looks at him, eyes burning with conviction. Kwame. I have to. Maybe it's the only way their voice gets heard. Cut to interior Kwame's bedroom night. Kwame sits by a flickering oil lamp. The leaf rests beside him. The sounds of the village fade to a hush. He stares at a blank page, pen poised, then begins to write. I found a leaf today. Not just any leaf. A message fragile and brave, drifting on the currents of the Volta. I do not know who you are, but tonight your words fill my world. I will not forget you. The camera pulls back slowly. Kwame silhouetted against the lamplight, his words flowing onto the page. The leaf, luminous and alive, lies between them, a bridge across time, space, and circumstance. SFX. The low rumble of thunder again, more insistent. Cut to black. Title sequence begins. The letter in the leaf, Abiba's story. 3 years earlier, exterior northern Ghana, small village night. A violent storm brews in the distance. Lightning forks across a bruised sky. SFX thunder crashes. Inside the village, torches flicker uneasily along earthen walls. Women hurry children indoors. Men stand guard, machetes in trembling hands. Enter Abiba's family home, continuous. A small dim room. Worn prayer rugs cover the floor. The air is thick with tension. Abiba, 12. Slender, doe-eyed, sits in the corner, clutching her younger brother, 5, both wide-eyed with fear. Her mother, Aisha, early 30s, whispers hurried prayers, beads sliding through her fingers. Aisha. Stay close, stay quiet. Allah protect us. The sound of shouting and gunfire grows nearer. Suddenly a loud bang at the door. Aisha, urgent whisper. Go through the back. She pushes Abiba and her brother toward a hidden flap in the rear wall. Exterior back alley, continuous. Rain pours down in sheets. Smoke and chaos swirl in the air. Abiba clutches her brother's hand, running barefoot through the mud. Shots ring out. A neighbor falls before their eyes. Abiba screaming, Mama, but Aisha is nowhere behind them. The siblings keep running, tears mixing with rain. Exterior outskirts of village later. Abiba stumbles exhausted. Her brother collapses beside her. She looks back. The village burns in the distance. Sirens wail. The world as she knew it gone. Dissolved to black. Exterior refugee camp, northern Ghana day. A ragged tent city. Aid workers move among shell-shocked families. Abiba sits alone under a tarp, her face hollow, arms wrapped protectively around her brother. A grizzled old man approaches her distant uncle Musa, 50s, his face weathered with grief. Musa. Your father, your mother, I am sorry. Abiba's lips tremble, no sound comes out. Cut to into refugee tent night. Abiba lies awake, staring into the dark. Her brother sleeps fitfully beside her. Tears roll silently down her cheeks. Abiba vo. I was 12 when the world ended. I was 12 when I became a shadow. Exterior marshlands near Volta Day. 2 weeks later, a battered pickup truck rattles down a dirt road, stopping near the dense marshes. Musa helps Abiba and her brother down. Musa, you will stay here. No one will find you. He gestures to a shack hidden deep within the reeds. A local woman, AMA 40s, appears wary but sympathetic. Ama. She will be safe, but school papers I cannot help. Musa grim. There is no school, there is only survival. He turns to Abiba. Musa softening. Stay strong, child. Allah sees you. He leaves. Dust swirls in his wake. Exterior marshland, shack. Days passing montage. Abiba carries buckets of water through tangled roots. She mends fishing nets for Amma. Her brother grows thin and pale. Nights spent staring at a tattered schoolbook she salvaged from the ruins. Close up a single pencil stub she treasures. One dawn, her brother grows feverish. Interior shack day. Abiba tends him with herbs and cold cloths, eyes hollow with worry. Abiba VO. There were no doctors, no medicines, only the river. Extra riverbank night. Abiba kneels by the water, the moon full above. She cups her hands, whispering, Abiba's soft prayer. Please, let him live. I will give anything. Faint whimpering. From the shadows emerges a skinny, stray dog, ribs, protruding eyes wary. It stops a few feet away, watching her. Abiba offers it a scrap of fish. Tentatively, the dog takes it, tail wagging faintly. Abiba's soft smile. You have no one to. From that night, the dog returns. She names him Kofi. A silent bond forms between them. Montage continues. Kofi follows Abiba as she gathers reeds. He curls beside her at night. Abiba teaches her brother to smile again. But life remains harsh. Exterior village market day. Abiba ventures to trade fish. Locals eye her with suspicion. Villager 1 muttering, Muslim girl, refugee. Villager 2. No papers, shouldn't be here. Abiba lowers her gaze, shame burning. Exterior shack night. Abiba sits alone, clutching her schoolbook. Her brother sleeps fitfully. Kofi rests his head on her lap. Tears streak her cheeks. She opens the book, every page already used. Abiba VO. No more pages, no more voice. But the river still carries words. Exterior shack day. Abiba rises with new resolve. She takes a fresh banana leaf, carefully selected. Using her pencil stub, she writes slowly, painstakingly. If anyone finds this, please remember I once existed. She stares at the words, her heart racing. Extra riverbank sunset. Abiba walks to the river's edge. Kofi follows, ears perked. She kneels, trembling, holding the leaf above the water. Abiba's soft prayer. Please, carry me to someone who will hear. She releases the leaf. The current takes it gently. Kofi whines softly. Abiba watches, eyes shining with unshed tears. Abiba VO. I have no name here, no voice. But perhaps the river remembers us all. SFX. The wind rises, distant thunder rumbles again. Extra Volta marshland, dawn. A deep mist clings to the winding channels of the great Volta marshland. The sun is a pale disk behind shifting clouds, its light struggling to pierce the shroud. The tall reeds sway in the breeze. Water glistens like molten silver. The calls of unseen birds echo across the emptiness. Somewhere amid this vast, indifferent wilderness stands a small shack built of bamboo, banana leaves, and hope. Interior shack, early morning. A threadbare mat, a rusted metal pot, scraps of fish bones in the corner. Abiba lies curled beneath a thin blanket, her eyes open. Sleep had not come easily. A soft nudge against her arm. Kofi, her mangy, loyal dog, gazes up at her with bright eyes. His tail thumps once, twice. Abiba softly, good morning, Kofi. She strokes his rough fur. A ritual of survival begins anew. Exterior riverbank moments later. Barefoot, a small basket slung over her back, Abiba treads carefully along the slippery edge of the marsh. Kofi trots alongside. She checks the fish traps, handmade from reeds and wire. Her fingers tremble with cold as they lift the first one. 3 small fish shimmering with life. A faint smile crosses her lips. Abiba to Kofi, we eat today. She gathers the fish in her basket. Kofi lets out a soft bark, ears perked. Exterior shack later. A small fire crackles outside the shack. Abiba cleans the fish with a jagged knife, movements swift and practiced. The aroma of roasting fish fills the air. Kofi watches eagerly, tail wagging. Abiba tears off a small piece and offers it. Abiba teasing patience. Kofi snatches the morsel with a gentle snap. Exterior marshland afternoon. A new journey. Abiba moves through dense undergrowth, eyes scanning for edible plants. She gathers wild greens, plucks berries, and unearths tubers. Deeper still, a gleam of gold catches her eye, honeycomb nestled high in the crook of an old tree. Abiba thinking manna of the marsh. She studies the bees, calculates her move. A daring climb. Her fingers bleed as she scrapes free a modest portion. Triumphant, she descends with her prize. Extra shack evening. Another modest feast, fish greens, a sliver of honey. Abiba to Kofi. We live like kings tonight. They eat beneath the stars. The night hums with life. Interior shack night. The candle burns low. Abiba writes in a battered notebook. Day unknown. 3 fish. Honey found. Kofi healthy. I am still here. Her pencil nub is nearly gone. Her hand lingers on the page. Abiba's soft whisper. Will anyone ever read this? She blows out the candle. Silence. Montage, survival days. Abiba paddles a crude raft across the river, checking traps. She weaves baskets, repairs her shack. She tends Kofi's wounded paw after a sharp stone injury. She watches children playing in the distant village, unseen, uninvited. Each day a battle. Each dawn another victory. Extra river storm day. The sky bruises purple. A storm descends. Rain lashes the earth. The river swells. Inside the shack, water creeps across the floor. Abiba and Kofi huddle in a dry corner. Abiba to Kofi, hold on, my friend. Thunder rattles the earth. In our shack night after storm, exhausted, drenched Abiba strokes Kofi's damp fur. Flashback screams in the night. Her father falls. Her mother's bloodied face. The endless run into the dark. Abiba gasps, awakens from the memory. Abiba to Kofi, you're all I have left. She clutches him tightly. The dog licks her cheek. Exeter riverbank day. A new discovery, a small wounded bird trembling in the reeds. Abiba scoops it gently in her hands. Kofi watches curiously. Abiba to the bird. You'll be safe here. Into your shack days later. She feeds the bird. Honey water tends its broken wing. Kofi lies nearby observing. Gradually the bird gains strength. Abiba opens her hand. It flutters, perches on her finger. Abiba to Kofi. Another life saved. Exeter riverbank release day. Abiba sets the bird free. It hesitates, then soars into the sky. A rare smile touches her lips. Abiba to Kofi, one of us has wings now. Kofi barks softly, tail wagging. Exeter village market day. Desperation. Abiba approaches the bustling market with a basket of dried fish. Villager 1, disdainful. Look, the Muslim girl. Villager 2. She has no papers, no place here. Cold stares. Abiba keeps her head down, trades fish for a few coins and matches. She returns to the marsh heart, aching. Abiba Vio. No name, no past, no future, only the river. Interior shack night. Abiba leafs through her notebook. Every page is filled. No more paper, no more words. But the river whispers an idea. She pulls a large, supple banana leaf from a nearby stalk. Carefully, with her last stub of pencil, she writes, If anyone finds this, please remember I once existed. Tears blur the letters. Exeter riverbank sunset, a solemn ritual. Abiba carries the leaf to the water's edge. Kofi sits beside her, ears alert. Abiba to the river. Carry my voice where I cannot go. She releases the leaf. The current takes it, swirling it into the vast unknown. Abiba to Kofi. Let the river tell our story. They watch in silence as it drifts away. Exeter river night montage. The leaf journeys onward, past tangled reeds. Beneath the arch of a great tree. Through moonlit waters. Abiba Vio. Perhaps someone will hear. Perhaps someone will remember. Into your shack night. Abiba strokes Kofi's fur, gazing out into the dark. A single tear falls. Abiba softly, we wait. Exterior to Volta River, early morning. The banana leaf bearing Abiba's heartfelt message floats gently on the river's surface. The morning sun casts a golden hue over the water, illuminating the leaf as it embarks on its journey. Montage, the leaf's voyage. The leaf glides past dense mangroves, narrowly avoiding entanglement in their roots. It drifts beneath wooden bridges where children play and fishermen cast their nets. A sudden gust of wind propels the leaf into a faster current, causing it to spin and dance atop the waves. It narrowly escapes being swallowed by a whirlpool, veering off just in time. Exterior Riverside Village, day. A group of school children dressed in uniforms gather near the riverbank during their lunch break. They skip stones and laugh, their voices echoing across the water. Kwame, 17, a curious and introspective student, notices something unusual. Kwame pointing, "Hey, what's that floating over there?" He wades into the shallow water, retrieving the banana leaf. His eyes scan the message, and his expression shifts from curiosity to astonishment. Kwame softly, "If anyone finds this, please remember I once existed." The other children gather around, reading over his shoulder. Child 1. "Who wrote this?" Child 2. "It's so sad." Kwame determined, "We need to show this to our teacher." Interior school classroom, later that day. Kwame stands before his teacher, Mr. Mensah, holding the banana leaf carefully. Kwame, "Sir, we found this in the river. Someone wrote a message on it." Mr. Mensah reads the message, his brow furrowing. Mr. Mensah, "This is unusual, but it's a cry for help. We can't ignore it." Exterior school notice board, next day. A copy of the banana leaf message is pinned to the board, accompanied by a note found by students of our school. "If anyone has information about the author, please come forward." Interior local radio station, day. Mr. Mensah and Kwame sit before microphones, the banana leaf displayed prominently. Radio host, "Today we have a unique story. A message found on a banana leaf floating down the Volta River. As the broadcast airs, listeners across the region tune in, intrigued by the mysterious message." Into Abiba's shack, night. Abiba sits by a small fire, Kofi curled up beside her. She gazes into the flames, unaware of the stir her message has caused. Abiba to Kofi, "I wonder if anyone found it." Kofi lifts his head, ears perked as if sensing something. Exterior village center, day. A crowd gathers around a bulletin board displaying the banana leaf message. Conversations buzz as people speculate about its origin. Villager 1, "Could it be from someone lost in the marshes?" Villager 2, "We should organize a search." Interior community hall, evening. A meeting is held with villagers discussing the mysterious message. Elder, "This is a sign. We must find the person who wrote this." Kwame, "I'll help. I want to find them." Exter Volta marshland, days later. A search party, including Kwame and Mr. Mensah, navigates the marshes, calling out. Kwame, "Hello, is anyone there?" In the distance, Kofi barks. Mr. Mensah, "Did you hear that?" They follow the sound, eventually arriving at Abiba's shack. Enter Abiba's shack. Moments later, Abiba stands cautiously as the search party approaches. Kwame, "Are you the one who wrote the message on the banana leaf?" Abiba nods slowly, tears welling in her eyes. Abiba, "I didn't think anyone would find it." Mr. Mensah, "You're not alone anymore. We're here to help." Interior Kwame's bedroom, night. The room is dim lit, only by a single desk lamp, whose weak glow pools over scattered notebooks and worn textbooks. In the center of this pool of light lies the banana leaf edges, curled veins glistening faintly with moisture, as if the words upon it still breathed. Close up, Kwame's fingers run slowly across the inked letters, hesitant to disturb them. "If anyone finds this, please remember I once existed." He exhales shakily, the words lodging in his chest like a stone. 1,000 thoughts race through his mind. Who? Why on a leaf? How far had it traveled? Is this person still alive? He looks at his phone, hesitates, then instinctively raises it. The camera captures the leaf, a grainy image, dark edges glowing green under the lamp. Fingers fly across the screen. A message to his group chat. Text message. "Found this floating in the river today. Anyone know what this could be?" Look at what it says. For a long beat, nothing. The screen stares back blank, silent. Kwame leans back in his chair, staring at the ceiling. The hum of the ceiling fan circles like a quiet, ominous clock. Suddenly, hing, messages flood in. Jabari. "Bro, that's haunting." Sarah. "Real, who would write something like that?" Jabari. "You should totally write about this, man. This is exactly the kind of story you're good at." Kwame stares at the screen. His pulse quickens. He swivels slowly back toward his desk. His laptop gleams faintly in the dark. Kwame softly to himself. Maybe this is the story I need to tell. He opens the laptop. The blank document glows cold and expectant. He places the leaf carefully beside it. His fingers hover over the keys, then begin to type. Enter Abiba's shack, same night. The shack shudders under the weight of a rising storm. The wind moans through cracks in the walls. Abiba lies curled on a thin mat, her body trembling. Sweat beads her brow. Her skin gleams pallid and feverish. Her breath comes in shallow, ragged gasps. By her side, Coffee whines softly, pressing his muzzle against her burning cheek. Abiba weak whisper, "Kofi, it's so cold." She coughs a dry tearing sound that shakes her whole frame. Kofi licks her hand, eyes wide with worry. He noses a ragged blanket toward her, pawing at it urgently. Abiba barely audible. "Good boy, stay with me." Her eyes flutter closed. The candle beside her flickers its flame, dancing like a fragile heartbeat. Outside, the wind howls. Enter Kwame's bedroom later that night. The clock reads 2:13 a.m. Kwame hunches over the keyboard, face lit ghostly by the screen. His fingers fly. On screen text, "I do not know her name. I do not know her face. But tonight, through this fragile green vessel, her voice reaches across the dark. What does it mean to exist? To leave a trace in a world so vast and indifferent. A single leaf, a single message, a soul reaching out to be remembered." His eyes glisten. He pauses, exhales, then continues. "Perhaps she is a refugee, perhaps a lost child. Perhaps no one knows her story yet. Now, through this small act, she has reached me, and I cannot look away. I will tell her story. I will remember." Enter Abiba's shack. Night deepens. Abiba's breathing grows ragged. Her lips move soundlessly. Kofi, agitated, rises and circles her, whining louder now. He licks her face, nuzzles her shoulder. Abiba faint whisper, "Stay, don't leave." But Kofi senses the danger. His instincts scream at him. Suddenly he bolts for the door, paws scrabbling at the flimsy wood. XG marshland continuous. Kofi darts into the night, his sharp barks ringing across the desolate marsh. He runs toward the faint flicker of distant lights, the village far beyond the reeds. Enter Kwame's bedroom, dawn approaching. The first pale light of dawn bleeds into the sky outside. Kwame sits back, eyes rimmed red, a final line blinking on screen. And so, in the vastness of the world, a single leaf carried the voice of one who refused to be forgotten. He stares at the words, heart thudding. A long pause. Then he hits send. The email subject, writing competition, submission. The leaf flies off into the void. Kwame slumps back, utterly spent. Kwame softly to himself. "Who are you, I hope you're still out there." Exterior marshland, dawn. The sun crests the horizon. Mist coils low over the marsh. Kofi races through tangled roots and shallow waters, barking frantically. A fisherman in the distance hears him. He straightens, squinting. Fisherman. What's got into that dog? Kofi darts back toward the shack, then toward the man circling, barking, then running ahead again. Fisherman calling out, "There's something wrong. Follow the dog." Into Abiba's shack. Moments later, Abiba lies motionless, her breath a faint rasp. The door bursts open. The fisherman and two others rush in. Fisherman. "God above. She's burning up." They lift her gently. Kofi whining urgently, circling. Fisherman. "We need to get her to the clinic, now." Kofi leaps onto the boat with them, pressing close to Abiba's limp form. Exterior marsh boat. Moving fast. The small boat speeds through the winding channels. Kofi keeps vigil by Abiba's side, gaze unwavering. Interior local clinic later that morning. A small, simple clinic. Abiba lies in a narrow bed, an IV in her arm. A nurse wipes her brow. Kofi sits beneath the bed, refusing to move. The fisherman speaks with a local teacher nearby. Fisherman. "Found her alone, almost gone. That dog saved her life." Enter Kwame's bedroom day. Kwame sleeps sprawled across his bed, exhausted. Ping! His phone buzzes. One eye cracks open. He groans, reaches for it. Email confirmation. "Your submission to the National Youth Writing Competition has been received." A tired smile. Then another ping. A message from Jabari. "Bro, your story. Everyone's talking about it already. They're posting it online. It's going viral." Kwame sits up, eyes widening. He scrolls. His story, the leaf shared, reshared. Comments flood in. Comment. "Who is this girl? Has anyone found her?" Comment 2. "This broke my heart. Someone help find her." Comment 3. "We need to know. This is too important to ignore." Kwame's heart races. Kwame to himself. "Hold on, we'll find you." Interior clinic, late afternoon. Abiba stirs, groaning softly. Kofi whines in joy, tail thumping the floor. A nurse leans over. Nurse. Easy, child. You're safe now. Abiba's eyes flutter open. She tries to speak. Abiba hoarse whisper, Kofi. Nurse smiling. Right here. He brought us to you. Tears slip down Abiba's cheeks. Abiba whispering, thank you. Kofi. Thank you. Interior Kwame's bedroom. Morning. Kwame awakens to the soft glow of morning light filtering through his window. His phone buzzes incessantly on the nightstand. Kwame groggily. What time is it? He picks up the phone, eyes widening as he sees numerous notifications, messages, emails, social media alerts. Kwame surprised. What's going on? Opening his messages, he sees texts from friends and classmates. Text message. 1. Kwame, your story is everywhere. Text message. 2. People are talking about the leaf all over social media. He quickly checks his social media accounts. His story has been shared hundreds of times with comments pouring in. Comment. 1. This story touched my heart. Who is this girl? Comment 2. We need to find her. Kwame to himself, I can't believe this. Interior school hallway. Later that day, Kwame walks through the hallway, students stopping to congratulate him. Student 1. Kwame, your story was amazing. Student 2. You're famous now. He smiles modestly, still processing the attention. Interior principal's office. Moments later, Kwame sits across from the principal Mr. Mensah. Mr. Mensah. Kwame, your story has garnered national attention. The Ghana Library Authority wants to publish it. Kwame astonished, really? Mr. Mensah. Yes, and they want to know if you have any information about the girl who wrote the original message. Kwame. I wish I did. I found the leaf near the river, but I don't know who she is. Interior radio station. Next day. Kwame sits in a radio studio, headphones on, speaking into a microphone. Radio host. Today we have Kwame, the young author whose story, The Leaf, has captured the nation's heart. Kwame, tell us how you found the leaf. Kwame. I was by the river when I saw it floating. The message on it moved me deeply. Radio host. And now people across Ghana are searching for the girl who wrote that message. Enter Abiba's hospital room. Same time. Abiba lies in a hospital bed, recovering. A nurse enters with a tablet. Nurse. Abiba, there's something you should see. She plays a video of Kwame's radio interview. Kwame on screen. I hope we can find her. She deserves to know that her voice was heard. Tears well up in Abiba's eyes. Abiba, he found my message. Into her hospital lobby. Later. Abiba, now stronger, walks with the nurse. Nurse. Your story has inspired many. People want to help you. Abiba. I never imagined this would happen. Inter-school auditorium. Days later, a special assembly is held. Kwame stands on stage speaking to students and staff. Kwame. This experience has taught me the power of words and the importance of listening to unheard voices. The audience applauds. Interior hospital room. Same time. Abiba receives a letter from the Ghana Library Authority offering her a scholarship and inviting her to speak at the upcoming youth conference. Abiba overwhelmed. I don't know what to say. Nurse. Say yes. Your story deserves to be heard. Exterior Volta marshland. Dawn. The first rays of the sun pierce through the heavy morning mist. The Volta marshlands awaken beneath a silver veil. Cicadas drone. The water laps softly against the mangrove roots. The river channels twist ahead, a maze known only to those born to this land. Inter-rescue boat moving. Kwame sits at the prow of a long wooden canoe, clutching a photograph of the banana leaf pressed inside a laminated folder. His jaw is tight, his eyes burn with restless determination. Beside him, a human rights activist named Mrs. Ama Kabore, 50s, stern and composed, grips a handheld radio. Behind them, 2 journalists with cameras and 2 seasoned local guides paddling with practiced rhythm. Their boat leads a convoy of 3, Mrs. Ama, low voice. Every hour counts now. If she's alive, this marsh is no place for a sick girl to last long. Kwame. We'll find her. We have to. His gaze pierces the thickening fog. Exterior marshland channel moving. The convoy maneuvers carefully. The water narrows, tree branches claw overhead. Thick mats of floating hyacinth choke the channel, forcing them to push through. Suddenly, one of the guides raises a hand. The boat's slow. Guide. Quiet. This is where the channels start splitting. Mrs. Ama. You know the paths. The guide nods grimly. Guide. But not all are safe. Some lead nowhere. Exterior local village riverbank later. The rescue team docks at a small riverside village, a cluster of reed huts. Chickens scatter. Women stare warily as the strangers approach. Kwame and Mrs. Ama step forward, showing them the photo of the leaf and a sketch of Abiba. Kwame. Please, has anyone seen this girl? She may be nearby sick alone. A tense pause. The villagers glance at one another. Finally, an elderly man steps forward. Elder. There are many places in the marsh. We do not know everyone who hides here. Mrs. Ama. Please, a human life is at stake. Another man, younger angry, steps forward. Young man. Outsiders bring trouble. Some here do not want their hiding places known. Go back. A murmuring grows. The villagers gather, their faces dark with suspicion. Kwame pleading, we seek only one girl, not to expose anyone. We beg you. The young man spits into the water. Young man. Turn around now, or you may not leave safely. Tension coils tight. Mrs. Ama stepping in calm but cold. We will not be threatened. We are here under the law of Ghana in defense of a child. Young man gritted, then tread carefully. Exterior, marshland, later. The boats move again deeper now into the most tangled parts of the marsh. The sky darkens as storm clouds gather on the horizon. Mrs. Ama checking watch. We may have only a few hours before this weather traps us. Journalist nervous. And the village people, they may follow. Kwame. Let them. We're not stopping. Exterior narrow channel moving fast. The boats weave through narrowing waterways. Branches slash at their faces. The current quickens. Suddenly a sharp crack behind them. They glance back. Two motorized canoes have appeared bearing angry villagers armed with poles and machetes. Guide urgent. They're coming fast. Kwame shouting, paddle go. Exed wild chase water. An intense boat chase ensues. The rescue boats dig into the water, racing ahead. The pursuing canoes close in. Water sprays. The air is thick with shouts. Kwame grips the side of the boat, his heart hammering. Suddenly their canoe hits a submerged log, jolting violently. Kwame is thrown overboard, plunging into the cold, dark river. Slow motion. Underwater, his eyes, wide, bubbles erupting, the world becomes a muffled roar. He thrashes, disoriented, sinking deeper. Exterior boat chaos. Mrs. Ama, man overboard. Kwame. Journalist there. One guide dives in. Underwater. Hands grab Kwame's arm, yanking him upward. Exterior surface. He bursts up, gasping. The guide hauls him back aboard, sputtering and soaked. Kwame coughing, I'm fine, go, don't stop. Exterior marshland channel moments later. The pursuing boats fall behind the narrow channels, blocking their motors. The rescue team presses on. Exterior distant marsh, same time. Kofi darts through the reeds, barking sharply. His keen ears catch the distant sound of paddles, shouts. He freezes listening, then bolts toward the approaching boats. Exterior marsh channel moments later. Suddenly a loud bark pierces the air. Kwame, that's a dog? Mrs. Ama. Could it be? Kofi bursts from the reed's tail high, barking frantically, circling their boat. Kwame, eyes wide. It's her dog, it's Kofi. Mrs. Ama, follow him quickly. Exterior final push. Kofi leads the convoy through twisting, shallow channels. The guides follow expertly, propelled by urgency. Extra Abiba's shack. Moments later, Kofi bursts into the clearing, yelping. The boats arrive. The team leaps out, rushing toward the small shack. Interior shack. Inside dim light, Abiba lies barely conscious. Skin pallid, breath shallow. Mrs. Ama, she's here. She's alive. Kwame kneels beside her, trembling. Kwame softly, Abiba, we've come. You're safe now. Kofi whines, nuzzling her hand. Mrs. Ama to radio, evac needed immediately, location secured. It goes to shack wider. As the team prepares Abiba for transport, Kofi curls protectively beside her. Kwame, eyes misting. You did it, boy. You saved her. Exterior Volta Marsh, early morning. A rescue helicopter hovers low over the marshland. The rescue boats, now in formation, signal with flares. On board the lead boat, Mrs. Ama, Kwame, the medical team, and Abiba's frail body, cradled carefully. Into a medical boat, moving fast. Abiba lies pale and trembling on a stretcher wrapped in blankets. The paramedics work swiftly, oxygen mask applied, IV line secured. Kofi, soaked and trembling, sits pressed against the side of the stretcher, eyes never leaving his human. Kwame watches, barely breathing. Mrs. Amma. Pulse weak, we must stabilize her before airlift. Medic. Heart rate climbing, stay with us. Abiba, stay with us. Kwame softly clutching her hand. You're safe now. Please. Fight. Exeter Hospital later. The rescue convoy bursts into the emergency entrance. Doctors rush forward as Abiba is wheeled through sliding doors, Kofi barking frantically as orderlies try to hold him back. Kwame to Kofi. It's okay, boy. They're helping her. We'll wait. Mrs. Amma firm. We've come this far. She must live. Into a hospital hours later. Kwame and Mrs. Amma sit outside the ICU, eyes red, bodies drained. Kofi lies curled by the door, refusing to move. The waiting is suffocating. Nurse approaches. Nurse. You can come in. She's stable and conscious. Kwame bolts upright. Enter ICU moments later. The room hums softly with machines. Abiba lies beneath crisp white sheets, eyes fluttering, open face sunken but alive. She sees blurry figures blinking, confused. Her gaze lands on Kwame, standing at the foot of her bed. Tears spring instantly to her eyes. Kwame, voice shaking, smiling, you made it, we found you. Abiba, bare whisper, am I alive? Kwame steps closer, eyes shimmering. Kwame. Yes, you're safe now, Abiba. A small sob escapes her. Kofi whimpers loudly from the doorway. Abiba, urgent, Kofi. Kwame gestures, the door opens. Kofi rushes in, jumping onto the edge of her bed, tail wagging furiously, licking her fingers. Abiba, weak laughter through tears. Good boy, my good boy. Mrs. Amma enters quietly, wiping a tear. Mrs. Amma. Welcome back, brave girl. The whole world has been waiting for you. Abiba turns to her. Abiba, you came for me. Kwame, voice breaking. We all did. You wrote a letter on a leaf. And it reached us. It reached everyone. Abiba starts crying softly. Abiba, through sobs. I didn't think anyone would care. I just wanted someone to know. I was here. Kwame moves beside her. Without hesitation, he opens his arms. Kwame, softly, you are here, and you'll never be forgotten again. Slowly, unsure, trembling, Abiba lets him embrace her, her first hug from a friend in her life. She sobs into his shoulder, whole body shaking. Abiba, choking whisper, I can't believe I'm alive. Kwame, you are, and we'll make sure you live fully. Kofi rests his head against both of them, tail thumping softly. Interior hospital room, days later. Abiba now sits up in bed, color returning to her cheeks. Kofi curls by her feet. Kwame enters beaming, carrying a tablet. Kwame. You need to see this. He sits beside her, opens a video. On screen, a national news segment. Anchor. The story of the letter in the leaf, a message found in Ghana's Volta River, has captured hearts worldwide. Thanks to a brave search led by local youth and human rights workers, the author of the letter, 15-year-old Abiba, has been found alive and is recovering. Footage of the search boats plays, then clips of the hospital rescue. Kwame, softly. Everyone knows your name now, and they all want to help. Abiba's eyes flood. Abiba. But I'm just a girl, with nothing. Mrs. Amma entering, not anymore. She hands over a folder, official scholarship documents. Mrs. Amma, the Youth Empowerment Fund is offering you a full scholarship, and we've begun the legal process to obtain your identification papers. Abiba gasps. Abiba, school, I can go to school. Kwame, grinning. You can do anything you want now. Abiba buries her face in her hands, sobbing, overwhelmed. Mrs. Amma, soft. You earned this. You were brave enough to hope to write that message. Now let us walk with you. Abiba, tearful. Thank you. Thank you. I never thought this was possible. Interior hospital media room, later. Abiba, now able to walk with support, sits with Kwame and Mrs. Amma as they prepare a short video message for national broadcast. Cameraman off screen. Ready, just speak from the heart. The camera rolls. Abiba takes a deep breath. Abiba speaking to camera. My name is Abiba. I come from a place where I thought no one could ever hear my voice. I wrote a letter on a leaf and set it into the river. I never thought it would find anyone, but it did. And now, I know that hope is never wasted. To anyone who feels invisible, you are not. Please don't give up. Someone will hear you. Camera cuts. The room bursts into applause. Kwame grinning. You're a star now. Abiba blushing, smiling for the first time. I'm just me. But now, I'm not alone. Kofi barks joyfully, leaping into her lap. Extra newsroom broadcast night. The video of Abiba's message airs across Ghana and is soon picked up by international outlets. Social media montage. Thousands of tweets had leafletter trending. Comments flood in incredible courage. We must help children like Abiba. Fundraising campaigns launched. Interior hospital room night. Abiba watches the news on a small TV, stunned. Kwame softly. Look how many people believe in you now. Abiba. I was so alone. I didn't think anyone would ever see me. Kwame. Now the whole world sees you, and they're cheering for you. He reaches for her hand. She grips it tightly. Abiba. Thank you for coming, for finding me. Kwame, voice shaking. Thank you for writing that letter. You gave us the chance to find you. Abiba, tearful whisper. I'm not afraid anymore. Kofi thumps his tail in agreement. Exterior district administration building morning. A gray concrete building looms beneath the sweltering sun. Camera pans across a small but restless crowd gathered on the steps. Reporters set up cameras. Activists hold signs, let her live. Every child deserves a future. In the middle of the square, a battered public notice board displays the order. Public hearing on the identity and status of Abiba. Interior council chamber moments later. A stark room lined with aged wood panels. A long table where 5 council members sit, stern faces, stiff collars. In front of them, a lone wooden podium. The room hums with low voices. Mrs. Amma, composed but vigilant, sits beside Abiba, who clutches a small paper file with trembling hands. Kwame sits on her other side, eyes fierce. Kofi lies silently beneath her chair, eyes alert. Council chairperson 70s raps the gavel. Council chairperson. This session is now in order. The matter at hand to establish the legal identity and civil rights of the minor known as Abiba. A hush falls. Flashback brief montage. Abiba's memories flicker, running through flames and smoke during the conflict. Writing her letter on the banana leaf. The cold nights alone in the marsh with Kofi. Kwame holding her hand in the hospital. Back to present. Council chairperson. We begin with the petitioner's statement. Mrs. Amma rises, voice firm but warm. Mrs. Ame. Honorable Council. This girl, though undocumented, is undeniably of this district. She is a survivor of the religious violence that displaced hundreds. Though she lost her parents, her name remains Abiba. Her spirit remains. Today we ask not for charity, but for justice, for her right to live, to learn to belong. She steps aside. All eyes turn to Abiba. Council chairperson. Abiba, speak if you wish. Abiba rises slowly, voice trembling. Abiba. I do not know where I was born. I do not know the names of those who raised me before the war. But I know this. I am here. I have lived in this land in the marshes. I wrote on a leaf because I had no voice. But now, I ask to be heard. Tears well in her eyes. Abiba, I only want to learn, to be someone. Please, let me belong. She sits. The room is silent. Council member 1, hard-faced. She has no papers, no birth record. Without proof, how can we grant rights? Council member 2, older woman, gentler. The leaf, the search, the witnesses. Is that not proof of existence? Council member 3, angry extremist. She comes from the north, from Muslims. We have seen the trouble they bring. Should we invite it here? Gasps. Murmurs of agreement ripple through parts of the room. Abiba lowers her head. Kofi growls softly. Kwame stiffens, stands abruptly. Kwame, voice loud, clear. No one chooses where they are born, But Abiba has chosen how to live. With courage, with dignity. You say she brings trouble. She brought hope to all of us. She did not ask to be born a refugee. But she chose to reach out through a river, through a leaf. We chose to answer. And so must you. The chamber falls deathly silent. Kwame, voice softening, but unyielding. We judge too often by borders and bloodlines. But a life is a life. A child is a child. Will we be remembered as those who built walls, or as those who opened a door? He sits. Abiba squeezes his hand under the table, silent tears streaming. Exterior outside council building later. The crowd grows. The story has spread, cameras flash. Reporters murmur, a pivotal vote today. Will Abiba finally be recognized? Interior council chamber, final moments. Council chairperson. We have heard the statements. The council will now vote. A long pause. The council members lean in. Hands raised one by one. Council member 1, abstain. Council member 2, yes. Council member 3, no. Council member 4, yes. Council chairperson, yes. Gavel strikes. Council chairperson solemn. The council recognizes Abiba as a legal resident of this district entitled to education and civil protections. Exterior council chamber, moments later. The doors burst open. Reporters swarm. Kwame shields Abiba gently. Mrs. Amma smiling proud. It is done. Abiba voice trembling radiant. I am someone now. Kwame grinning. You always were. Now the world agrees. Kofi barks joyfully, tail wagging furiously. Montage media coverage. Council grants identity to Abiba. Headlines spread. Clips of Abiba's speech go viral. Public celebrations in her village. Exterior river sunset. Abiba stands on a small wooden dock, Kwame beside her. She looks out over the river that once carried her cry for help. Abiba softly. This river saved me. And so did you. Kwame. No. You saved yourself, Abiba. We just followed your voice. They stand together in silence. Not victims, not alone, but survivors and friends. Exterior University of Ghana, early morning. The campus is alive. Colorful banners flap in the wind. Pan-African Youth Summit 2025. Voices of the new generation. Delegations arrive from across the continent. Robes and suits, beads and head wraps. Young leaders of every kind stream through the gates. In the distance, the tall spires of the great conference hall rise against the Ghanaian sky. Interior green room backstage. Abiba now, in a simple but elegant dress of deep blue, stands alone before a mirror. Her face is composed, but her fingers tremble as they trace the edges of her note cards. Mrs. Amma enters, watching her carefully. Mrs. Amma, you are ready. Abiba, soft, I'm afraid. Mrs. Amma. Good. That means your words still matter to you, and they will matter to them. A beat. Kwame enters next, carrying a small package. Kwame, I brought this. He unwraps a small framed glass. Inside carefully preserved lies Abiba's original banana leaf letter. Abiba gasps softly, eyes wet. Kwame, soft, it will be in the hall, on display. Abiba, voice trembling. I thought it was gone. Mrs. Amma. It's not gone. It is why you are here. Interior rehearsal hall. Moments later, Abiba stands alone on an empty stage. The seats ahead are empty, yet somehow vast, intimidating. A public speaking coach stands by. Coach, look up, breathe, own the silence before you speak. Abiba tries again. Abiba reading. This leaf was my voice when I had none. She stumbles, voice cracking. Kwame gently. Don't read, speak. Tell it to me as you wrote it that night. She looks at him, swallows, tries again. Abiba. I wrote because I needed someone to remember me. And today, I want to tell others no voice is too small. The words land. Coach smiling. Now you're ready. Exterior Great Conference Hall, later that day. An enormous banner welcomes attendees. Crowds stream inside, dignitaries, students, journalists, activists. Cameras flash, flags wave. In the main foyer, under glass, the banana leaf letter is now displayed. A voice in the river, the letter that crossed a continent. Students and visitors pause to read it. Many wipe tears away. Enter Great Conference Hall auditorium. 2,000 seats, full. Delegates murmur in anticipation. The lights dim. A booming voice announces, "Next, please welcome from Ghana, a voice that inspired this summit, Abiba." Thunderous applause. Backstage, Abiba trembles. Kwame takes her hand. "Kwame, you're not alone anymore." Mrs. Ama, "Go, speak, fly." Abiba nods, steels herself, steps forward into the light. On stage, she walks slowly to the podium. The room hushes. Thousands of eyes watch her. She grips the podium, breathes, looks out. Her voice starts low, shaking. "Abiba, I was born into a world that forgot me. I had no papers, no family, no school, no voice. So I wrote one sentence on a banana leaf, and I placed it on the river." A stillness sweeps the hall. "Abiba, I thought that was the end of my story, but the river carried my words. And today, I stand here because hope floats farther than fear." Cameras flash, faces shine with tears. "Abiba, this leaf was not only a cry for help. It was a beacon, not just for me, but for every child who feels unseen. Every voice matters. Every story matters. And now, we must listen and we must act." She raises her gaze, voice growing steady. "Abiba, I am no longer the girl lost in the marshes. I am a student, a speaker, a citizen, and I am not alone." She looks to Kwame and Mrs. Ama in the front row. "Abiba, no one should have to send their voice adrift on a river. We must build a world where every voice is heard, where every child is counted. Let this leaf remind us it was not just a message of despair. It was hope sailing far, calling us together." She pauses. The hall holds its breath. Then, "Abiba, final words. This leaf was not only a plea, it was a hope flying free." A beat of stunned silence, then the hall erupts in standing ovation. Tears stream down faces. Delegates cheer, clap, embrace one another. Kwame wipes his eyes, beaming. Mrs. Ama applauds, fiercely proud. Into a conference foyer later, the framed banana leaf draws crowds. Abiba stands nearby, surrounded by young students eager to meet her. "Student, your words gave me courage. Abiba, yours will give someone else courage too." Journalists approach. "Reporter, how do you feel having inspired so many?" Abiba, soft smile. "I feel heard, and I will use my voice for others now." Exterior campus lawn, sunset. Abiba walks arm in arm with Kwame and Mrs. Ama through the golden light. "Kwame, you changed the world today." "Abiba, no, I only showed that even small voices can travel far." She looks out across the campus, alive, with young people, new hopes. Abiba softly to herself. "And this is only the beginning." Exterior, University of Ghana, early morning. A new dawn breaks over the University of Ghana. The air hums with energy. Young men and women move through the campus, books in hand, laughter in the breeze. Camera tracking shot. Through a long pathway lined with acacia trees, footsteps echo lightly. At the end of the path, Abiba. She wears a simple but crisp school uniform, a worn satchel slung across her shoulder. Her eyes are bright, a quiet fire within them. Beside her, in his casual student garb, Kwame walks in stride. Their friendship is evident in every glance, every small smile exchanged. At their feet, bounding with joyful abandon, is Kofi, tail wagging, tongue lolling. The once hungry, forgotten marshland dog now walks proudly on university grounds. Kwame, grinning. First day as a proper student, nervous. Abiba, soft smile, not nervous, grateful. Kwame, you earned this. The whole world saw it. Abiba looks around. Students pass them with knowing glances. Some smile, some nod, respectfully. Her story has spread far beyond what she could have imagined. Interior registration office. Moments later, Abiba stands before the registrar, official documents in hand. Proof of identity, scholarship acceptance. Registrar, welcome to the University of Ghana, Miss Abiba. A stamp marks her file. The moment is small, procedural, but monumental. Close up, Abiba's fingers tremble slightly as she grips her student ID card. Abiba to herself, whispering, I belong. Exterior university courtyard later. Abiba and Kwame sit beneath a great baobab tree. Kofi lies between them, head resting on Abiba's foot. Around them, life swirls, students gather in circles, professors chat under shaded archways. Kwame, Do you ever think about how far you've come? Abiba quietly. Every moment, the river, the leaf. Sometimes I wonder what if no one had found it. Kwame. But someone did. And now look, you're here, changing lives. She glances down at Kofi, scratches behind his ear. His tail thumps softly. Montage sequence, hope spreads. Music swells, gentle rising orchestral. Into remote classroom day. A small makeshift classroom in a rural village. A teacher holds up a printed news article about Abiba. Children listen wide-eyed. Young girl. She was just like us, and now she's in university. The teacher nods. Teacher, if you have words in your heart, share them. The world will listen. Extiba refugee camp night. Around a small fire, children sit cross-legged. A youth worker reads aloud from a translated copy of Abiba's speech. Their faces glow in the firelight, some tearful, some inspired. Youth worker. Your story matters. Never forget that. Interior City Library Day. A young teenager watches a video of Abiba's summit speech on a tablet. Moved, she begins to draft a letter of her own. Close up. The words on her page. I want the world to hear my voice too. Exterior Public Square Day. A community gathering. An activist displays a replica of Abiba's banana leaf letter, now a symbol of resilience. People leave messages of hope pinned to a nearby wall. Into University Library evening. A warm, quiet hush fills the space. Camera slowly tracking past ancient books, past plaques and portraits of scholars. At the heart of the library's exhibition hall, beneath a soft spotlight. The original banana leaf now framed in glass, mounted on a polished oak pedestal. Inscription. A voice in the river, the letter that crossed a continent. Students gather in reverent silence. A small child clutches her mother's hand, staring at the faded ink upon green veins. Exterior University campus sunset. The sky burns orange and purple. Abiba and Kwame walk side by side through the emptying courtyard. Kofi trots ahead, barking playfully at fluttering leaves. They pause by the edge of a fountain. Kwame, you ready for tomorrow? Abiba. Every tomorrow. I want to keep learning and to help others find their voice too. Kwame, soft, you already have. He gestures behind them, where groups of younger students gather, some clearly inspired by Abiba's presence. Abiba smiling gently. Then it was worth it, every part. Interior library display, close-up, final shot. The camera moves in on the framed banana leaf. The glass reflects the passing faces of visitors, young and old, rich and poor, all drawn to this single symbol of hope. As the image lingers, Abiba's voice, VO, fills the space, clear, strong. You may forget a name, but never forget the small dreams that light up this world.